All right, we are back here for the Death Lineup, episode number 3, right after the Warriors beat the Nuggets to take a 3-0 lead in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Brian is back. We have Eric Carrillo, who also does some shows with Brian on the Bad. Eric, how's it going?
Did you say the bad? The BAM. The
The
BAM.
BAM.
Trademark. Yes. Hi. Hello, folks. I'm a uh co-host with BG over on the BAM pod, the NFL pod, but I am a big Warriors fan, so I'm kind of glad to, flex my my basketball knowledge a little bit here and kind of diversify it a little bit. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking with you guys.
Okay, so give people a little bit of a perspective. I did this with Bry.
Mm-hmm.
You are used to the Warriors being really good. Probably ever since you started watching them, they've been good, right?
No. So my initial era, well, I've been a Warrior fan since I was born, but my initial, I guess, early era was right after post We Believe. So I guess '08, the 48 win
Okay.
season, missed the playoffs, and then Steph's rookie year from like '09 going to 2012, and then things started to get better. So
Yeah.
like
Okay.
some of my favorite memories are like 2011, 2012 with Darrell Wright. Some of those scrub teams that I have a soft spot for. But yeah, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I guess in comparison to Warrior fans who have been fans since the '80s or '90s, I have it pretty good. But yeah,
You guys are very lucky to grow up in this era, but it is not all. How do you say it? I guess the way that the team has been the last couple years hasn't been perfect, and that's why this season has been so fun, is because they're kind of back and they're competing again at a high level. All right, so I told Brian we're gonna talk about a couple of different topics here. We're gonna talk about also the NBA, the how the playoffs are going, and we're gonna do our Kaminga watch. So we'll be going good for about, I don't know, 45 minutes. So hang tight with us here. So let's start it. Let's kick it off with point one for me on the main topics of the game. And my question was what happens when the Warriors face a really good Nuggets team? The first two games, I thought the Nuggets were probably, I don't know, B minus, C plus for what their fans expected, and the Warriors are going to roll over teams who give a B minus, C plus effort. I thought the Nuggets were about a B plus, A minus tonight, and I think it showed. And my whole thought process, especially in the third quarter when Nuggets went on that little bit of run, was okay. Like, how do the Warriors respond when you call on what we are calling the Fast Five, or what do you call it, Brian? PTSD, or Death and Max is what Kawakami calls it. That lineup, at some point, the more that you play that lineup, the other teams have more reps against it. They have more ways to scheme against it. And the Warriors went to that lineup early, and it didn't really work at all. They were a -6 at some point. We'll figure out what the final numbers are. But when it came to can they take the Nuggets' best punch, they took it, and then in the fourth quarter they did what they generally do. Brian, what were your thoughts on how the Warriors played at the end there after it looked like the Nuggets, that they were ready, the crowd was ready, and then they just kind of deflated it?
I think that the Warriors didn't play to the crowd. I thought that, especially in a couple of those last possessions, obviously the acrobatic pool layup, it seemed like they slowed it down, got into half court a couple possessions there. And, I feel like when the crowd is going nuts, especially when you're at another team's arena, you might speed it up a little bit and not play to your pace, even though I think that lineup is really good, just playing so fast. That's what they always do. Draymond just inbounds it really quickly and they start running. I thought when they slowed it down too, it was super effective at the end.
So Eric, Aaron Gordon was pretty terrible those first two games. And in this game, he came out, he played really well, 18 points, 12 rebounds. He's a +5. He was their best when it came to plus minus. And, we've been talking the whole time, are we going to get the Jokic game? 37, 18, and 5 for Nikola Jokic. Just those are their two, technically their best players. We talked about Will Barton a little bit, didn't have as good of a game as those guys, but they needed their two top guys to come out and play well, and they did. Were there any worries for you down the stretch? Did you think that maybe this is not the Warriors' night, or were you pretty confident in their ability to come out on top here?
I felt pretty good. The one thing I will say is obviously not having Jamal out there and not having Michael out there. It kind of limits how much offensive freedom they have, and you could kind of tell that. I think one of the shots that kind of shows that they are shorthanded was the middle of that run that puts them up 5. I want to early 4th, right? I think puts them up 5, and you're rolling, and Jokic is getting denied the entry pass, and you got to pretty much rely on a Jeff Green fadeaway on GP2. And there's just, and I mean, look, it's not a very good shot, but there also isn't a lot of options.
Yeah.
Running the option. So I wasn't too worried. I still feel that if you let Jokic get his, you make timely stops, that they're just, I don't think Denver has enough to compete with them right now. And I think it should be a sweep personally.
So a couple people watching on the live stream, pop in. You have comments or questions, we'll throw them up on screen while we do this. So I felt the same way as you. When it got late there, I thought, okay, because I can remember, I think you guys probably remember too, there were moments in games against Houston, in games against Cleveland, where you're like, I don't know if they're going to be able to punch the gas and come out on top. And there were some, some of those Houston series were pretty tough, even with KD. Same with 2016. I never felt that way in this game. So that probably says to me that, Denver's not as, they're not that good. They're the 6th seed, but I think a lot of teams would have said, they're probably the worst team in the West left. We see the Pelicans being able to play up to par. Hopefully Devin Booker gets healthy, but it sounds like he's gonna miss a couple weeks. You see Minnesota playing at a high level now. They got out on a big lead today and then gave it all up. And that just that to me shows how good Memphis is, and just how it's not only like when you talk about players, are they ready to be at the playoff level? Coaching staffs too. Like there was a moment where they probably should have called 2 or 3 timeouts, and they didn't call any, and kind of let that run go. But you see those teams and they're competing, and then you see this Nuggets team, and they're competing to a point. I just for Jokic, he just doesn't have enough firepower there to to have a fair fight, I guess, against the Warriors.
Yeah.
So
to piggyback off of what you were going to say there is that Denver in the beginning of the game would go on these like runs, and I'd be like, oh shoot, Denver's got to be winning right now, right? And it's just like, no, Warriors are up 5, Warriors are up 6.
Yeah.
Even when it got down to the wire, like they barely had the lead for that long. So I think that just shows that this is, like Eric said, this is heading to a sweep. At most 5. So
yeah, and even then, this is honestly one of their better shooting nights. It seems like they had an answer for every run that they had. There was never a moment, even the biggest one they had was to put them up 5, but it never felt like there was a moment where it was getting out of hand. There was an answer for mainly everything. I mean, the emergence of Poole, you can't speak highly enough about him. The emergence of Poole has completely changed the landscape of this offense, to the point where we can have Steph come off the bench. Although I do think, do you guys think that the whole Steph off the bench experiment goes into game 4? Considering how the third quarter started?
I think it keeps going until he's off of a minutes restriction. I thought it was going to be done by game 2. It's not done. So
I think the second round it'll be done for sure, 100%, because they just can't afford it. But they're going to have to be creative with how they put that together. I think it's going to be matchup based. I think that starting lineup could differ between Memphis or Minnesota, and then even on to the next round if they make it. Phoenix, we'll see. I think Phoenix will still win their first round, but no Booker's tough. But I do think it's such a embarrassment of riches in a sense, because the ability to have Steph come in, and it's like the Warriors played pretty well in that first quarter. It was a lot of back and forth. The Nuggets played excellently on offense too. And it was like, punch, 3. The Nuggets shot 43% from 3. The Warriors shot 45%. But once Steph came in, you're like, oh, yeah, I forgot. we have the best player on our team who hasn't yet come into this game. And I mean, it's like an extra gear that teams don't have. Now, probably means that, when they do go to the next round, they're not going to have that, and they'll have to figure out how to get that punch. Now, Jordan Poole can do that too, right? Like Jordan Poole can act like Jordan Poole and Steph could trade spots, and I think you get the same effect. Now, can Jordan Poole do that and still have the same confidence? We saw he did not like coming off the bench as much earlier in the season. Steph going like, "Hey, dude, like no harm, no foul here. This is cool for me." I feel like you could just flip flop those guys and get the same effect that we're getting from Steph coming in, as the first super sub.
Yeah, do you think it works as well with JP coming off the bench? That's the only thing I'm curious about because
He's got to buy in, right?
Yeah, because there was that moment in the regular season right when Clay came back where he went on the bench and you could kind of tell there was a bit of an adjustment period. And he started to pick it up towards the end. But the way Steph has come off the bench and be able to perform this efficiently, I'm just kind of curious if JP can do it at the same rate. That's why, because I don't think you want to run with the small ball lineup starting. With the exception of maybe if it's a big time series like we saw in the finals. Kerr switched to small ball before, but I still think it's a little bit early, especially with Jokic out there. And then next round you're going to have, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but let's just say either or. You're getting Jaren Jackson, you're getting Steven Adams, or you're going to get Cat. So you're still going to have a pretty athletic scoring big man who could probably put 15 on you minimum.
And he's got to buy in for one. I think the one thing that changes a little bit, and it's probably a small thing, but defensively with Steph, you're a little bit more secure there. You start a little bit more sharply on defense. Poole, I thought Poole had a couple of excellent moments defensively today where I was like, oh, wow, he played that really well. He stopped a break that could have, punctuated a run for them. But if you start Steph, there is a little bit of more of like a defensive identity, like the team defense improves. I don't know how much of a singular defender Steph is better than Poole, but the team defense is definitely better. So that is something now. But this is what Draymond said, right? It's up to Kerr. That's why he makes the big bucks. All right, let's talk a little bit more about that lineup. The Fast Five wasn't so fast today. They I don't think they played poorly. I think the Nuggets played pretty well. They sort of figured things out, but that's what's going to happen when you play this lineup a little bit more. Like I said, you're going to see more reps. You're going to see more film on them. You're going to see, they played that 1-2-2 zone, which just got dunked on a couple times. And so now what's interesting is it's up to Kerr to figure out. We saw a little bit of Iguodala in that Wiggins spot. I thought that was interesting. They sagged off Iguodala so hard. He had like wide open by like 10 feet.
It was like 20 feet. It was pretty bad.
3-pointers, and he didn't take them. So that's probably playing into Denver's hands a little bit by Iguodala not taking those, because Wiggins would have taken those, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But Brian, what did you think of this? Reggie Miller kept calling it the death lineup. I thought he was shouting us out there. But what did you think about how they played today?
I just think that it's I think Denver made some good adjustments. Whether it was, I thought they were a lot more physical in this game than they've been in the past couple games. I thought a couple more players just played better. Aaron Gordon being one of them, even though he looked a little rough in the beginning. But I think that Kerr brought it in pretty early too. Was it not in the first quarter that he tried it again this game? Like I thought it was in the.
They were in there pretty early. Yeah,
they were in there pretty early.
The kids, yeah.
See, when I was watching it, I couldn't pick out a particular flaw that was like bad on their end. I just thought Denver was a lot better today.
I think some of the size too. I think Denver slowed it down a little bit, and you saw that too. Cousins went for a lot more post ups. Jokic is able to get a bit more work in the post. I mean, this is a really good game from Jokic too. It kind of hurts your whole identity when he's dropping was it 37 on you? 37, 14 to 22. I mean, he's the MVP for a reason. But I do think the thing I like about the death lineup is that there's some interchangeable parts. Specifically with, you see Wiggins, I think will probably be the person that's going to be in and out more than anything. But I do like to see, guys like GP2 get in there. I like some Iggy minutes in there as well. I think GP2 was really big. Those corner threes that he hit in the first half, he had some big defensive stops. I think you could swap it a little bit more. And towards the end in the fourth, they picked it up. I mean, you had the Dre strip. You had Wiggins. Nothing like describes the Wiggins experience more than like those final like couple possessions where he bricks that wide open corner three, and you're like, "Fuck, man!" Like you got to knock one, and then next possession comes down, knocks a corner three. Next possession, offensive rebound off the Steph miss, hits at the pool, hits the layup, which almost iced it pretty much. And also,
Steph did the sleep to the Nuggets fans.
Sleep time celebration. Yeah. I saw that. I'd like to see Wiggins get more shots too. He only put up 6 shots today as well. I think that there's more room for Wiggins to get his licks too, but it could also kind of get hard to get what you want. Maybe he has to do the Clay model of like, if I'm getting the ball, I'm shooting no matter what. Yeah, because with the pool's emergence, there's less looks to go around.
If you could transform or combine Wiggins and Iguodala together, if you could create Wiggodala, like that would be the perfect player for this death lineup, because Wiggins is going to put it up. If he's open, he's going to put it up. But Andre adds the ball handling, he adds the passing. Like, he was looking for cutters who weren't even open when he threw the ball, but they were open when the ball got there. Like, that's how comfortable in the system that he is. And that's not something that you necessarily see Wiggins do. He's not going to make that play. They're not going to put the ball in his hands to make that play. But again, the thing that I'm most interested in is, okay, what does the coaching staff take from this game to say, we were abusing these guys with this lineup in the first 2 games. They learned some stuff. They figured out some stuff. And now what do we have to do to kind of put it back on our side as far as when we put that lineup in? So that's going to be an interesting little chess game there. All right. So my last thing here, this was a battle. Now you look at the boxes, and again, let's read Jokic's box one more time, just because it was devastating. 37 points, 18 rebounds, 5 assists, 7 of 9 from the free throw line, 2 of 3 from 3, 5 turnovers though. So his pass, there were some bad passes. He was trying to.
Some of the entry passes.
I think he was trying to throw some guys open as well, and they just weren't on the same page as him. He probably had a few more than 3 fouls, but this was a game where the fouls were actually, if you look at it, the fouls were almost even, 25 and 26. But late in the game, they were getting a couple more calls than the Warriors were because of the physicality. But overall, great game on Jokic's part. And if you read Draymond's box score, 6 points, 10 assists, 5 rebounds, 5 fouls, 4 turnovers. You would think, oh, Jokic just absolutely outplayed him. And, if you look at it that way, he probably did. But late in the game, when they needed to stop, Draymond with 5 fouls picks his pocket in the most important part of the game for the Nuggets, and then they go and they finish him off. But Bri, we've seen this matchup 3 games in a row now. Jokic is the MVP. In game 2, he wanted out of there. He did not. He was not having the time of his life there. But what did you think of Draymond having to, take on what was essentially the best Jokic that we've seen so far?
I mean, I think Draymond still did a good job. I really do feel like the game plan here is like, okay, Jokic can get his, but let's contain the supporting pieces there. But with Jokic specifically, I know we talked about it a little bit in the chat, was that Jokic kind of had him on some of those three-point pump fakes that, like, even me in my seat, like in the first 2 games, I was like, Draymond's like actually bothering his 3-point shot. Is because I've seen Jokic play throughout the season, and it's like no one expects that 3 just to come in. It's like behind his head, so it's like hard to really like bother. But I thought Draymond was doing a good job bothering it. Obviously, Jokic is probably a little off in the shot. But when I was sitting here watching, I was like, oh my God, he's about to shoot. Like, I jumped with Draymond. And so I was off there too, because Draymond jumped a couple and then Jokic would get by him. But I definitely a better game by Jokic. I know we've mentioned his box score in the past couple podcasts. You always look, it's always a minus. Today, I think it was a +3, and he plays for the majority of the game. So I would say it's a
38 minutes.
Pretty impressive night from him.
So he plays 38. Aaron Gordon plays 34. On the Warriors side, Clay played 37. The guy with the ACL injury and the Achilles tendon injury plays the most minutes for the Warriors. Draymond was second with 35. Steph, 30 minutes and 45 seconds. So they pushed him up for sure.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you Reggie mentioning it on broadcast a little, where he was saying that like if this goes overtime, like technically Steph's over his minutes restriction. Do you think he wouldn't have played in that overtime?
I think he plays.
I think he plays too. I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
You want to give up game 3.
So, I don't want to go fits on everybody. Like it's a bad thing to go fits on everybody, but you were jumping with Jokic. Jokic is 7 feet tall and Draymond is like 6'5.5". I know Draymond's got long arms. He's contesting that 3, but he's not blocking that 3 because of how far Jokic, Larry Bird style jumper. I get, why is he jumping there? Why isn't he just getting, as close as possible to get inside of his body?
Oh goodness!
I think the one thing I will say is that there was a bit of a contrasting comparison to game 1 and game 2. There's the crowd aspect of it constantly throughout this game. It was a 1 or 2 possession game where a 3 could be a big swing, a big momentum shift along with the crowd. So I get it. When you're a bit of a tighter game, it's harder not to bite on that. And this is also Jokic's best shooting game as well. There is a bit more of a threat there. Did he knock a 3 today though? I don't know. I think he might have knocked 1 or 2.
Jokic 2 or 3. Are you talking about Draymond or Jokic?
Jokic.
I know Draymond knocked 1 early, but I feel like there was a bit more of a temptation there. He was on 1 today. I mean, if you look at the box score, this is by far obviously I don't want to speak ahead of myself. Crazy things have happened, but this felt like Denver's best punch. I mean, you shoot 50% from the field, you out rebound by 14. You shoot 43% or 42% from 3, fairly especially in comparison to what you did. Gordon gives you 18. This felt like their game that they had to steal, similar to, like 2016 and when Portland went and won game 3 after the 2-0 without Steph. This was the big game you need to go to kind of shift that momentum. And they had an answer for it. So I get it. This is the one game you don't want to give up because 3-0, it's a completely different. There's not as much pressure. You lose 3-0, you're going right back to chase versus 2-1. But yeah, I think he still played well. Even Draymond's, I guess his game has never been. Yeah, he can lock down, and you saw that in that last possession. But also his value comes from setting traps on guys, setting the defensive motion, picking up on picks, picking up on setting the double at the right time. Like it's the smaller things that help as well. And when you do need that stop, he will get that stop, and we saw it today. That rip was clean. Especially with 5 fouls as well.
Yeah,
that with 5 fouls, that's a gutsy rip to go for in a tight game like that. But Dre's been in those moments. This core kind of showed it today, though. A lot of those Clay 3s those are vintage Clay big game 3s where you're like, no, yes. Like it reminded me a lot of like the Thunder game 6, especially some of those deep pulls that he had early coming off screens. But yeah, I feel good, man. I feel good.
He was definitely in Chuck mode, and one thing that he's added to his game that I feel like, I know that he did it some, but I feel like since he saw the 2 years ago last year Steph season, where Steph would do the slide step, the pump fake and the slide step, I see Clay doing that a lot more this year, and it gets him that little bit more open. And when he does that, it's a little bit slower because Clay's footwork is a little bit slower, but I think that's also helping him get open because guys are still flying at him. He's still one of the best shooters in the NBA, passes Ray Allen for playoff 3s, only behind Steph and LeBron now as far as all time. So yeah, really strong game from Clay. I think, the defense is going to be the defense for what it is right now. He's not going to be that lockdown guy. They're not asking him to do that. He's actually guarding bigger guys. And that's just kind of what you have to deal with. But offensively, today he looked like regular Clay as we've always known him going back a few years.
It felt like a vintage Clay game in the way of like KD would get like 30, Steph would get his 30 or whatever. And then you kind of be like, what was Clay doing? And you check the box score and it's like 24 points, over 50% shooting. And it just kind of quietly happened throughout the game. He fits that niche extremely well. I think like better than anyone else in the NBA.
All right, so we talked about this in the first 2 games as well. The unanswerable question is around injuries. Warriors are an older team. Andre misses game 2. He's got the neck problem. He goes and gets acupuncture? Is that what they said that he got? Was acupuncture? Yeah. And then the sideline reporter was like, "Oh, it's the third through fifth best thing I've ever done in my life," or something like that. It's like, third through
I thought they
fifth?
were doing like a mid-game advertisement.
And then Reggie's like, I want to know what 1, 2, and 3 is. If it's fifth, if it's your fifth favorite thing of all time. And so Andre, he's a little bit older. He's 38. I saw that surprised me when I realized he was 38. I was like, wow. I guess for whatever reason, I always assumed that he's like in his like early 30s or whatever. But 38. In this game, you had Jordan Poole go down. He banged his arm on the floor. Part of the game of him being, somebody who goes to the hole really hard. Draymond turns an ankle late there in the fourth. I guess it was mid fourth. And I was kind of like, uh-oh, because, with him, the lower half, the calf, which kind of kicked off these injuries for him, I got a little worried there. But ahead 3-0, I think they're going to go for the kill, because you go for the kill, you hope Minnesota can get one more at least. And then you got a nice little 3 or 4 day break there, and you can try and rest up. You can try to rest these guys. I don't imagine the Poole arm thing is going to go away very quickly. Andre could have, reoccurrence of neck spasms or just back whatever that's related to. And, an ankle tweak. Everyone's had an ankle tweak who's ever played basketball. It's not like that just disappears when you wake up the next morning. So I think they go for the kill. They want to end game 4. They don't want to play any more games so that they can take that rest. So whatever that means, if that means Steph getting a couple more minutes, if that means them going more to this fast 5 lineup because they think it's going to work, I think they are going to go for that kill shot so that they can get out of there as soon as they can. All right. So, little comment from Robert. Denver threw their best counter, and it still wasn't enough. Warriors are going to sweep. From your mouth to God's ears there, Robert. We want to see that happen. Okay, so that's kind of it from the analysis piece. Was there anything else that you guys saw that you wanted to mention that I didn't bring up?
I have a question. One question. Why is Belly getting minutes over Kuminga? I do not get it. I do not get it at all. Like
It's what he brings. I'm convinced. It's just like, I think it's his ability to be able to stretch the floor, and then Kerr is just in love with him knowing how to pass the basketball.
Does he stretch the floor though? I get, the early season success that Belly had, with he was shooting really well, and then obviously things tailored off in the end. And I don't think it's a valid thing to say, oh, for the defensive purposes, maybe Bielitsa has an inch on him. He's more of a prototypical 4. When you consider how easily DeMarcus is getting what he wants in the paint when he was up against him, how easily Jokic is getting in the paint against him. I think at least with Kuminga, you have explosiveness on the offensive rebounding side of things. He's willing to shoot the 3, which I think you could kind of say is a fault for Belly, because he often looks hesitant to pull, especially, it's been kind of a trend ever since maybe the last 3/4 of the season. I don't get it. I know he's a rookie, but it's not like Belly was a part of that playoff core who's been through those battles and has had those big moments. He had a decent game too, but clearly you could kind of tell this game that things weren't going very well, and he was struggling on both sides. I'm not sure what you guys think though.
I think it's a couple of things. One, he's got 2 inches and about 10 to 15 pounds on Kuminga. So it is, putting him in a position where if he doesn't succeed, he's a vet. He's going to be fine. He's not going to put his head down. If Kuminga in that moment doesn't succeed, it could affect a few different things, right? So it's the whole veteran rookie thing. But I agree with you. I think Kuminga, I thought they should have found a way to play him a little bit, like in like a 2 or 3 minute spurt when it looked like the Warriors were a little bit tired there. Kerr stayed with the plan. We got to see some Otto Porter missed 3s out of it, but Porter's there and has the highest plus minus on the team because of the rebounding and because he's a smart player. The other thing now, I don't know if they would even say this, but as a fan, I'm watching it. I'm going like, okay, what is the thing that I can live with in this game at this moment? It's the boogie, 5 dribbles, turn left shoulder, turn right shoulder, half of a hook. I can live with that because we know we would rather have them stay, allow Boogie to suck up some time, suck up some shots, rather than get their shooters going, right? He's not going to do that. Jokic will do that. Jokic will see the doubles. Boogie's not going to see the doubles and make that pass as much as Jokic will. Boogie wants to get his. So I think there's a little bit of like, if we play Boogie in this way, then he's going to be single-minded. He's going to want to score. And we know from watching Boogie 3 years ago, that is not always the best thing for the offense. That might be the best thing for Boogie because he likes to get involved, but it may also be a little ball stopperish. So I think there's something there. I don't know if they would admit that because, you don't want to. It's sort of a subtle diss at Bielitsa at the same time. But I just think because he's just a big guy, he holds his ground, and he's a vet about it. Do you have any thoughts, Bri?
From just like the playing perspective, I get the whole rookie mentality thing. I do think that, Kuminga's had a couple games where he'll go on a quick bad stretch and then Kerr takes him out. Sometimes it could be due to rotation, but I feel like if you're a young guy like that, you're like, oh, he's pulling me because I'm bad. I did bad, head down a little bit. But I was you guys know me. I'm so big on the Kuminga train. Like I want to see him in almost every single.
I think we all are, right? Like we all are.
But like I'm like, not to say I'm more of a Kuminga guy, but I just feel like I'm like, okay, let's try this with Kuminga. Let's put him on Giannis versus the Bucks. Let's see what happens here. I was like, Kuminga looks like the most physically intimidating, probably like physically intimidating guy on the Warriors. I think his build, he's huge, he's pretty ripped. And I was like, okay, he could probably bang with some of the bigs there. But I feel like some of those like powerful bigs who are like, even like Boogie, who just will use his lower body strength to the end of time and you just bumps with you. I feel like he would have still gotten the best of Kuminga. I don't think it would have been that much of a defensive. I don't think Boogie's stats would have changed, and that's fine. Boogie 9 minutes, 9 points. I don't think anything that doesn't really shift the game.
So to add what you said, if they put Kuminga in that role, does Malone go, oh shoot, we got to go small because Boogie can't guard Kuminga on the other side?
I think that helps the Warriors though, because if you put in Aaron Gordon at the 5, that's your small. Is that what you're considering there? Gordon at the 5?
I'd have to look at their roster, but probably something like that. And maybe to Kerr, he's like, well, that speeds up the game. It makes it less predictable, I guess, for them. They could go on a shooting streak, and we don't want that to happen. We want them to stay in this like really like, time sucking offense for where we possibly are going to make threes and they're only going to make twos.
That's a good point.
I will say, I think obviously you don't want to get ahead of yourself. Let's close the series out. But I do think that Kuminga minutes make a lot more sense next round, especially because regardless if you get Minnesota or you get Memphis, there's a lot of young athletic stretch fours on both those rosters, guys like Beasley. And then you have who's the guy on Memphis? 15 power forward.
We're getting stumped on Brandon Clark for both podcasts.
Brandon Clark, yes.
San Jose State, come on.
I should know. Spartan up,
baby.
Yeah, Brandon Clark. There's a lot more of I guess, typical like modern stretch fours that Kuminga will probably fit in well, because I don't think Bielitsa will match up quite as well in those matchups. So hopefully we do see some Kuminga minutes because I want to see it.
By the way, you're also a Spartan, right?
Yeah, actually I am. Yeah. Spartan up.
Do you remember who were some Spartans that you can remember who were like good players?
Not a single one. I'm gonna be completely honest.
Man.
We weren't very good when I went there. I mean, obviously Brandon Clark was there, I think my freshman year, I think like 2017 or whatever, but I was not checking out San Jose State's basketball team. One of these days we're gonna become a contender. We'll knock out Kentucky out of the bracket, but unfortunately my era wasn't the one to get that.
Was there good athletes in your era?
So are you talking to me?
Ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so gosh, it would have been my junior year, maybe. We win I think it was before it was the Mountain West. I think we're in like the Big West, or it was like some different conference. We win that conference tournament to go to the NCAAs, and we have to play. I want to say it was Antoine Walker's Kentucky Wildcats team in the first round.
I think I've heard this story.
And
my dad.
Yeah, the best player on their team was a guy by the name of Olivier St. Jean. He became Tariq Abdul-Wahed in the NBA. When I was So actually, a friend of mine who's watching. This is what I was going to mention as well. Mark Nabita mentioned Ricky Berry, and I was going to mention that name too because Ricky Berry, I think he was drafted by the Sacramento Kings in like the mid to late 80s. He was like a top 10 pick or something. But him and Olivier St. John, Tariq Abdul-Wahed, also drafted by Sacramento Kings. They would be like the two best players of the last 40 years to play at San Jose State because they both got drafted in the NBA.
I was at U of A. I was at U of A for 4 years, and my 5 sweeps your 5.
I only got 2. Your 5 against my 2.
DeAndre Ayton, right? Like Josh Green, Zeke Naji, Nico Mannion, Ben Mathurin, Christian Coloco, Alonzo Trier, who needs to find his way back in the league.
Ricky Berry's better than Nico Mannion.
18th overall pick, 1988. Yeah, to the Kings.
I think he was. He was also on that Olympic team in '88 as well. The Olympic team that became the infamous Olympic team because they lost to Soviet Union, and then the Dream Team comes in the next year in '92.
And just to clarify, I'm just talking about the people who went there when I was there. Obviously, I would name Iguodala or just Warriors
Steve
fans.
Steve
Kerr, yeah. Aaron Gordon. Oh,
was Aaron Gordon in Arizona?
Yeah. Number 2 pick. Was he the number 2 pick? What year was he?
No. He was like the number 5 or 4.
Oh,
it was the Wiggins draft, I believe.
Oh, okay. All right. So last couple things here before we talk about what's going on in some of these other playoff games. We had another pool party tonight. He in 3 games. Let me see. Slater had the number of his game scoring for the first 3 games. It was first game was all of a sudden I can't find it. Come on, Slater. Oh, first game 30 points, 9 of 13 from the field. Second game 29 points, 10 of 16 from the field. And this was almost a little. I didn't realize he played this well offensively. 9 of 13 shooting, 27 points, 86 points on 42 shots, becomes only the 16th player ever to score 25 points or more in his first 3 playoff games, including 3 of 5 from 3-point land, which tells me that he needs to shoot more of them because he's been so excellent at them. But yeah, Jordan Poole, what an amazing first 3 games. And I thought this game, I thought they were like, okay, what can we do to kind of slow him down? Well, let's be a little bit more physical. Let's put him in some of these harder screens. Let's attack him a little bit more. Let's, push him around. And he played through it. He fought back. He came back from injury. Excellent game from Jordan Poole. Are you guys bought in on him this playoff season? Is he going to continue to play this well? Or do you think that some of the stuff that he does that they can actually scheme around it, Bri?
I think the Suns would be the matchup that I think, and maybe Memphis a little bit. Maybe not. I don't know.
As much.
Yeah, more Suns because definitely more Phoenix. But I've been bought in on Jordan Poole for so long, and that's probably to a detriment a little in the beginning when this kid's like the worst rookie of all time. But I've been so high on Jordan Poole. I told you in a text chat, like my roommate went to high school with him, so like that's always something cool that I was like, oh, he's on the Warriors now, and I'd always like tell him what Jordan Poole was doing. But yeah, I think the thing that specifically sticks out to me about these nights, which I don't think will be replicated in future series, but it's just the efficiency is insane.
Yeah.
9 for 13, that's well over 50. 10 for 16, well over 50. 9 for 13, well over 50. That's ridiculous. Like if we're talking about Slater's tweet becomes only the 16th player ever to score 25 plus in first 3 playoff games. What's the record on the efficiency he's doing it at? Like that's probably Wilt efficiency, honestly. Like it's just ridiculous. Like it's insane.
So I was looking at Phoenix's lineup. So they're gonna throw Bridges out there, and if Booker's healthy, Booker and Paul, Cam Johnson. That's 4 wings who you could throw at the Warriors guys. But I don't know. He's so slippery. I feel like he's going to give, unless those guys can play a little bit more physical with him. I feel like he's going to be able to have the opportunity to do what he does best, even against a team as good as Phoenix, just because, there's three of them out there. There's him, and there's Steph, and there's Clay, and you can only guard, one or two of those guys at once, and somebody's going to slip open, especially the way that the Warriors were passing. Now, Draymond's, overpassing a little bit here and there, but I think he has the opportunity to continue to play this way, as long as now there's a part of this where I'm a little bit worried in that you guys probably don't remember this as well, but there was a series 2014 against the Clippers, and the Clippers were playing so physical that a lot of the Warriors were kind of shying away from the moment. Now, Steph was like killing himself to beat this team, and unfortunately, Clippers win in 7. But
Bogut got hurt.
if you get a game, yes, exactly. If you get a game or a series where the physicality is just a little bit much, I could see how that could affect Poole a little bit. But the guy's great in space. In the back of my mind, every time I see Draymond come to set a screen and then Poole goes the wrong way, I'm like, uh-oh, he's going to get yelled at. But Draymond seems to be, to think, okay, like, I'm going to let this guy do his thing because he's making the right decisions here. So I'm with you guys as far as him. I want to see, I kind of just want to see what happens when they kind of lock him a little bit. And they do hook, like you saw the Jeff Green hooking him on that screen. He gets called for the foul. But, there's stuff like that that's going to happen over over the next series, and I want to see how he plays through that stuff.
Before we go, I just want to say that Steph was fouled by CP3. It was at Game 5. He got shoved he got murdered on that top of the key 3. I think that was at Oracle, wasn't it?
I don't remember. I was able to ask Andre a question about that series. I made it about the Donald Sterling thing, so I didn't get to talk to him about basketball, but I should have asked him how close were they really to winning that series, because man, that series just seemed so back and forth. What a great series that was, even though they lost. All right, Brian, I think this one's going to be pretty easy here. It is.
Do we got music this time?
The Kuminga watch.
Yes. So today's Kuminga watch, I'm not even gonna have to pull up a box score because it was a good little DMP.
Man,
the Warriors weren't winning enough for him to go in for the trash minutes, and he wasn't used when I thought they could use him. And I'm gonna say that every game. I feel like he could be of use. So this Kuminga watch, I just allow me to speak for 5 minutes straight without anyone interrupting me when he finally gets a minute there.
Steve Kerr's ruining our bit is what it is.
That's exactly what it is. I mean,
we had an idea, we had a bit about Kuminga. He's gonna be that little spark plug, and Steve Kerr's like, no, you guys, it's not gonna happen. But the next 2 series, I agree with both of you. He's gonna play how he plays and the spots that he plays in. I think that's going to be sort of a wait and see, because Kerr historically has been like, okay, here's your chance. Oh my gosh, we're a -6 when you're on the court. See you in 4 games, right? Like, kind of how.
And this also helps, like, him getting playoff minutes in high intensity games. If they want to do this whole little Spurs thing where they bridge the present to the future, like, these are like important things for him to be placed into. Now, I get we're trying to win the whole thing, but I still think that I don't think he would screw it as much as maybe Steve and is thinking he might.
Well, early before this playoff started, people were saying, is Kuminga going to be the Kawhi Leonard of the finals?
We said it on our podcast too. Like, I think I think it was maybe around Christmas time or a little earlier when this kids started doing the Kuminga things we saw all year with these poster dunks. I think Alex was actually the one to say it on our podcast. He was like, this kind of reminds me of, like, and I know it's not going to end up happening, but this kind of reminds me of that Kawhi series. I believe it was like 2014 when Kawhi won the finals MVP. Obviously, Kuminga's not winning the finals MVP, but like that kind of impact where it's like, oh, we have this rookie that we could just and Kuminga has that like two-way factor to him too. But actually, Kevin O'Connor tweeted out that he thought Jordan Poole was that.
Yeah.
today.
That's kind of what I was getting to was
Yeah.
now people are saying it's Jordan Poole instead of Kuminga, which is
And they're right.
it's kind of cool. I mean, it's cool to think about, right? If
Yeah.
Jordan Poole can affect a series the way that young Kawhi did. Okay, now we're done talking Warriors. Let's just kind of there was some stuff happening in the NBA today, and we'll look ahead to tomorrow's games. But we have an around the NBA segment. Let's see. Can we get some more sexy music here? It's not sexy enough. You don't like that. You don't. This guy was just bombing today. He's like bringing the Grizzlies back. He was the best player on the floor
today. If
today.
anything, it's got to be Jalen Brunson. Ben said it in the last pod.
Yeah.
He's like, how is Jalen Brunson doing this to these teams? I will push back a little because I wanted to push back on that podcast, but I just forgot to chime in. Jalen Brunson is nice. There's a couple users on TikTok that will like break down some of his like just break down players like nasty moves. Like Jalen Brunson has some moves. He's really good with his pivot foot. He's just like really patient too. Jalen Brunson's nice. I think he had another 31 tonight. Like he's a good player and he's going to get paid this off. Yeah,
might be playing
off
himself out of Dallas though. He might be making
probably.
too much when he goes into free agency.
So Dallas as a team, Brunson was really the only guy who wasn't making any threes. Kleber goes 4 of 5. Josh Green 3 of 5. Davis Bertans 4 of 7. Jeez,
that's the only thing he has to do.
It's the only shots he took. He went to the free throw line 3 times, but the only shots he took were 3-pointers. They go 18 of 42 from 3-point line, and Jason Kidd, who my favorite college basketball player of all time, Jason Kidd. He said the other day, he's like, we're making 3-pointers. They're making 2-pointers. It's just mathematics. Who says mathematics over math? Jason Kidd says mathematics. I'll as we're talking, I'll see if I can find the photo of me and Jake Kidd. I met him once. He came to my office. My buddy Prakash brought him in. They both are Cal guys, and he came over, and I made sure, I had to shake his hand. I had to say what's up because I go back when he was in high school. I was following his career, and so we have this little hoop in the office. It's like one of those little play toy hoops, and I was like, hey, I just want to get a picture with you. And he's like, all right. He's like, how about you get the ball and you just come and you're just like pretend like you're dunking on me. I was like, no, I don't take a picture. Like I just want to like take a homie picture with you. So cool guy. He's very, very, very chill guy. But yeah, Jason, mathematics kid here. But Dallas, and then they're supposed to get Luka back next week or next game, I think, right?
Game.
Yeah, next game.
It's crazy to see the way that they are able to just spread these guys out. Utah is the ultimate regular season team. Nobody wants to see them in the playoffs because of disappointment. This is just a perfect opportunity for Dallas. Now, Luka comes back. The offense changes a little bit. It's completely run through him. The usage of when Luka goes way up. He's got to be able to get Brunson his stuff too, because Brunson is hot. So that'll be an interesting thing to see. But yeah, Dallas takes control, and they are ahead 2-1.
Real
in
quick
the series.
though, there's a disaster class going on in Utah right now. Like these last couple months, do you think they blow that all up?
Yes, 100%. Let me here. This is what I want to puff my chest a little bit because this is what we've been saying on the BAM Basketball Pod. Shameless.
By the way,
plug.
I called it the bad because
I think you just brain farted, man.
No. So here's what happened. So I had the YouTube stream open, and I started this show, and the YouTube stream is about 10 seconds behind us doing this. And so it just started playing randomly in the background. I was like, oh my God, where's that noise? And then I went to click and I clicked the YouTube video off. But then I looked at you and I said, the bad, because that's what you are. So that's how I screwed up.
Ben Cruz comes on the podcast and gets the ultimate intro. And Eric's first time on the pod, he gets the bad instead of the
look,
bad.
man,
Known the
Ben-
bad co-host.
Look, Ben works for the Ringer. Okay, if Eric gets a job at the Athletic doing podcasts and running their whole podcast department, the next time he comes on this show, it's like the red carpet. Like we're just like I'm gonna figure out how to put a red carpet on the screen, and we're gonna play
In
like,
due time, man. In due time, it's gonna be
we
Eric
can make that
works for
happen.
the BAM instead, and then that's how we'll
Yeah.
be.
Who
That's how
needs
we'll
the
be going
Ringer?
forward. But anyways, okay, back to this Utah-Dallas series.
Yes.
The reason I'm puffing my chest a little bit is because I think we've been calling this on the basketball podcast for a while now. Utah has a serious problem, and why they are a regular season team is because if you look at their perimeter defense, who is their best perimeter defender? He either plays 3 or the 4, and it's Royce O'Neal. Royce O'Neal is 6'4", and he's not even that good of a perimeter defender, in my opinion.
Royce
Donovan
5'9",
Mitchell
man.
has the athletic capabilities to be a good defender. He has a super long wingspan, but he's just really not good on defense. If Donovan Mitchell truly bought in and just went into the offseason and like tried to just up his defensive game, like I feel like he should want to be at where Anthony Edwards is already as a defender. Like this, you're going Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, really bad defenders. Royce O'Neal, I guess you could say average. I'm going under average. And then Bogdanovich, bad perimeter defender. And what happens is that Utah, when they're playing defense, they try to put Gobert on whoever's on the corner most likely. And so what happens is that Dallas or whoever Utah has played in the playoffs, they will just take them off the dribble and beat them. And Gobert likes to sink in because he wants to defend the rim because his guys can't defend the perimeter. It's not that Gobert is a bad perimeter defender. I feel like we see a lot of highlights on Bleacher Report of, oh my God, Gobert just got dunked on by Terrence Mann last year in the playoffs. Today it was Dinwiddie. It's not that. It is that Gobert is just his supporting cast on defense is so awful. And it's tremendous to Dallas to what they're doing, but I called it. I think even when you and Obi on the first podcast, it was like, I think we're going to take Utah because they went up 1-0. I was like, Utah's the biggest sell job in the NBA, man. They'll just completely blow leads. Like there's no way they win this series. There's still a chance they do, but because I think when Luka comes back, there could be a little bit of like a Jalen Brunson. I'm just speculating here, but what if Jalen Brunson's like taking a couple of Luka shots now that he's dropping 41 and 31? Maybe that doesn't sink as well for one game back. Dallas is still winning the series. And I want to get this on record because it's going to sound like an absurd take, but I've been texting it in a group chat and I just want to make sure this is on a podcast in the 1% chance this happens. Let's say Phoenix either loses to the Warriors or worst case scenario to me, they go to the finals and they lose to the Bucks again, maybe, or we might get into the Bucks in a little bit here. Celtics even. And you have CP3, who is an aging CP3, could be on his way out. This is the window for them to do it. Booker's playing at an all-time high. Mikal Bridges almost just won Defensive Player of the Year. Where do you look to change things? Do you just run it back again for the third year in a row? That's definitely an option. But what if you say, okay, sign and trade, Gobert, come to Phoenix, DeAndre and something, or Gobert and something. DeAndre goes to Utah. For Utah, it resets their timeline just a little bit. For Phoenix, it pushes their timeline to even more win now. And I think Chris Paul has been able to make guys like Bismack Biyombo look like a starting five in this age of the NBA. Gobert is not the best on offense, but imagine what Chris Paul can he could just be a lob threat. And I just think that it makes sense, although I could see where the criticism could be towards that is because DeAndre Ayton's going to be a future all-star. But I just think that the window for now, you can't just keep running it back, in my opinion. There's got to be a change. I don't know. I don't think that's the supporting cast. I think it might end up being a starter. And I think Mikal Bridges, you just paid him. I don't see why you would do it with there. Devin Booker is one of the best players, top 15 best players in the NBA. Chris Paul is still playing really well. I think it could be an Ayton move. That is my opinion.
To back your point up, their perimeter is Mitchell 6'1", Conley 6'1", Royce O'Neal 6'5", and then who's their super sub?
6'5" is generous.
Their super sub is Jordan Clarkson, who doesn't play any defense whatsoever.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of responsibility for Gobert to kind of fix a lot of stuff that is not working correctly for that team. And he probably does get a lot of unnecessary flack, but also it's because his personality's kind of weird. And those guys, you can tell those NBA players don't like him at all for whatever reason.
Draymond.
Draymond, but he's also the
last pick.
last pick in the All-Star game.
Not this year, thanks to James Harden.
If he wasn't the last pick if he was the last pick, what has it been like 3 years in a row, 4 years in a row, like since they adopted the draft format that he's the last pick.
And before that, he was crying because he didn't make it. Oh, it's just...
Yeah.
But imagine Gobert with that Suns supporting cast or just that Suns perimeter defense. Like you have the most confidence in the world because in my opinion, I think when KD came to the Warriors, he was already a pretty good defender. He had the body type and he had the instincts to do it. But I think him being able to rely on Draymond behind him, Clay in front of him, I think that was easier for him to be like, okay, I could really like depend on these guys. My defensive game is going to go up. You could say the same thing for Wiggins. We didn't really hear much about two-way Wiggs until he got to the Warriors and then he had Draymond behind him. So I just think that when you put someone of Gobert's caliber defensively on a team that is really good perimeter centric, their defense, it could even get better. I just wanted to get that on paper.
I will say though, I feel like the world is the media at least is a bit on a Rudy Gobert national apology tour, considering how the series is going. I'm seeing a lot more Rudy wasn't the problem rhetoric than I used to.
I'm just so glad that we said this so early. It's because you're right. Yeah, everyone's starting to realize it.
Yeah, because Rudy gets a hard time because there's always clips of him being out. Like you said, most of the clips that Rudy gets clowned on are him either getting dunked on or getting exposed out on the perimeter, ignoring the context behind it. The one thing I will say is if your center doesn't get dunked on, he doesn't try to go up and to protect the rim. A conventional center, any prototypical rim protector in that, which is a dying breed in all honesty, but that type of center is going to get dunked on. Even the best centers of the 90s got dunked on. Batumbo got dunked on. All these guys who are renowned for their rim protection going to get dunked on. And then even like the Steph clip, what was that, 2017? Where he did the 360.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Steph
about.
clip. I mean, it's easy to clown on him, defensive player of the year, but his effect really does come at the rim. That's where his value is. He completely changes the driving kick, the inside game. Whenever he's there, people are hesitant to go in at him, even though I maybe we all, even especially Warrior fans, like to give him grief every once in a while because it feels like he might have stole a defensive player of the year from Draymond. He is valuable, and yeah, I think with a better team, he could probably get more of his due. But regardless, I think Utah's getting blown up, so I have no idea where he's going to end up. But I think next year will be interesting. We'll see.
Oh yeah.
The other thing about him is how do the Warriors play him? Well, they just go small and they try to take him off the court, right? Like that's the switch that a lot of teams are going to do to him, and it's not his fault because he is a shot blocking back to the basket center. But if you are looking at it from the Utah perspective, who's more valuable? Is it Mitchell or is it Gobert? Because that's going to be the choice that they have to make. Who's the guy that we back? And it's a very guard dominant league, right?
That's why I think Gobert's on the way out.
So, all right, just quickly, Memphis, they come back and beat the Timberwolves. Can the Timberwolves come back from such a devastating loss here? You made fun of my Desmond Bane photo there, but he has 26, 7 of 15 from 3. They come all the way back. Oh, somebody's boy, Cat. 8 points, 5 rebounds in 32 minutes. He's in foul trouble again. And D'Angelo Russell, 9 of 21. Brian, are you wearing your D'Angelo Russell jersey? What's going on?
That's a choice.
Rough moments for the Timberwolves there. I don't know how they come back from that. They're a young team, so the whole aspect of how does the team come back? Who's the vet to go, okay, guys, here's what we do in this scenario?
It's Bev, and that's
Bev and Greg Monroe.
But Bev, how does Bev know what to do in this scenario? Bev's not a lead dog, right? He's not a guy who's like, you guys calm down. I'll put you on my back. He's more of a hard-nosed grinder type of player. And those guys, they can lead by example, but they're not going to necessarily lead by being that vocal person in the room. I've seen Pat Beverly on interviews and stuff. He's not going to win the most inspirational speech of the year or anything. So to me, it's Cat, but Cat doesn't really have a leg to stand on because of how poorly he played tonight. So I don't know where that's going to come from for them.
I think he struggled ever since they swapped. They gave Adams less minutes and a lot more Jaren Jackson. You could definitely see the struggle there, and especially
Adams didn't even play tonight.
Yeah,
did not play 1 minute.
Game 1, because Game 1 he looked like a monster. I think it's a young core. You know, it's a I guess a gut check moment. Especially you blew 2 25-point leads, and in all honesty, there's a lot of blame to go around. I don't know. The logic behind not taking a timeout and a 21-0 run makes no sense to me. I am still puzzled just thinking about it now. There was a lot of bad shots, a lot of pull up threes trying to like kind of quell the run that didn't make sense. D'Lo had some bad shots and had some bad shots, but yeah, I mean, like you said, sure, Pat Bev isn't the star player. He's not the one who's going to get you out of these situations. It has to be Ant, it has to be D'Lo, it has to be Cat, but if this core is really good enough, they can get there. I think the one thing they have shown though is they could score on this team. They can play with this team. It's just some of the shot selection. There's a lot of lapses on defense as well, giving up corner threes, falling asleep on guys when they're rotating, little things like that. Like I do think that this game can still go 7. I don't want to say Minnesota's dead in the water yet. I think they've matched up well. Even game 2, obviously they got blown out, but for the first half there, it was a really competitive game. Just things kind of got out of hand.
No, I'm over it. Memphis is getting them in like 5.
You got them in 5? You're giving up?
I mean, the thing is, I called Memphis winning in 5 or 6, so I think it's going to stay like that. I think it, yeah, like you said with the Bev stuff. I mean, if you look at the starting lineup with Vanderbilt, like Bev has the most playoff experience there. Like the game literally just popped up again, so I'm getting to see who was matched up against who. And one of the big points going into the series was, in fact, that Cat goes off against Steven Adams. They had Steven Adams in the first game. It sounds like he wasn't in there for the second game, and then I don't see him here for the third game. And Cat just gets limited because Jaren Jackson Jr. is also one of the best defenders in the league, in my opinion.
He only put up 4 shots too. That's inexcusable.
It's ridiculous.
For a
yeah,
star
Cat's
player.
about to make
There's
a
no
third
way.
team. Yeah, Cat's gonna make a third team All NBA and is completely like imploding in the biggest stage.
I'm not giving up
for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
I want to publicly declare I got Minnesota winning game 4 in Minnesota. I want to believe. All right,
they need it.
Put that on record.
They definitely need it. And if you look at the other side, Ja doesn't have he has a really bad shooting game actually, but does other stuff, gets a triple-double, and San Jose State's own Brandon Clark, second leading scorer in the game behind Desmond Bane.
He was really
points.
good today.
Offensive rebounds.
He played 29 minutes. If you're kind of keeping an eye on this kind of stuff, Bane and Ja, they have to play 40 minutes to bring this team back. Jaren Jackson only played 21 minutes, but he also got in foul trouble. So they just kind of stayed long, and Adams no minutes at all, and then on the other side for Minnesota, they just gotta they have to sort of. And you look, basketball's like a 4-quarter game, right? It's kind of silly to think of it in that way, but when you win 3 out of the quarters and you're like, oh, we're home, we're home there, we got it. No, it's a 4-quarter game, man. You got to play throughout.
And to bring it back into some Warriors here, it's because this is one of the 2 teams we're going to be seeing in the next round. What I've noticed, and honestly, what we've all noticed the whole year, Memphis Grizzlies are really good in transition. I think they rank first in like probably points off of transition or points off of turnovers, and just like their transition fast break offense is just really good. And the question was when they were going into the playoffs is that, okay, well, teams will be able to limit their turnovers. It'll be more half court than it is fast break in the playoffs because it's just a different entire game essentially. But what I did notice is that if Ja gets a full head of steam, he is so hard to stop. So I just wonder how quickly a Gary Payton might come in as the 6th man for the Warriors in this, if they do end up playing against the Grizzlies, because we saw that Gary Payton is the best Ja defender on the Warriors, probably by far. So
they actually played him pretty well. Cat had a couple stops in the fast break, avoiding the foul going up with them. That's the frustrating thing about this game. And I'm not even a Timberwolves fan. It's just frustrating from the outside looking in. It's like I feel like Minnesota did a lot of good things this game, but just I mean, it's hard. You're not guarding the perimeter very well, and you give up those runs. And I keep reiterating it, but I just don't understand not calling a timeout in a 21-0 run, especially with the team that young. I just don't get it.
He's gonna continue to hear that. I know that we're probably coming to a close here soon, but I think that the important series now, which wasn't important, I still think the Bucks get it, but Chris Middleton's out for 3 to 4 weeks now. You might want to keep an eye on Bucks versus Bulls, because DeMar DeRozan has had a really, really good game, and I think he has always been known for potentially not showing up in the playoffs, so I feel like that was a big game for him. Also, Booker, I think we already mentioned it here, down for 2 weeks. Do I think the Pelicans actually win this? No. Do I think if Zion comes back, they actually have a good shot? I think so. But
is Zion coming
Do you
back?
think Zion
no,
comes back?
no, I
though?
don't think
Yeah, I was
Zion
gonna
comes back.
say.
I've heard absolutely nothing regarding Zion. What's a couple other series? Mavs and Utah. We
Okay,
just
so
talked about that.
we'll talk about this real quick.
Okay.
Tomorrow, we have Miami and the Hawks. Hawks trying to take the first game at home. And then we have, you mentioned Bucks Bulls. That's actually an ABC game. We get a Friday night ABC game.
Let's go.
At what is it? Are they? I'm trying to
Probably a
look at the
5:30
times are.
game.
Yeah,
Or-
I can't. I'm not. The schedule I'm looking at doesn't have times. And then, no, it does. So Miami is at 4 Pacific. Bucks are at 5:30 Pacific, and then the
Suns,
late
Pelicans.
game is Pelicans and Suns at 6:30 on ESPN.
They keep giving them that late game, Pelicans and Suns.
Well, both West Coast teams, right? What's Pelicans time zone?
I think
That's East-
I think
East Coast, right?
Yeah, New
Yeah.
Orleans
Oh,
East
wow.
Coast, I think.
My bad.
And then on Saturday, Philadelphia trying to wrap up the sweep. Dallas again, Boston trying to continue, but the series goes back to New Jersey, so there'll be a little bit there. I want to see KD kind of have that game where he kind of reminds everybody who he is, and then yeah, the Warriors don't play again till Sunday. So, all right. So for those folks who are watching us on YouTube, you can find this podcast on BSPN, the Bay Area Sports Podcasting Network. Just go searching for BSPN wherever you listen to your podcast. And on the flip side, those of you who are listening to the podcast version and you want to find us on YouTube, find us on our live streams, just search BSPN as well on YouTube. We don't have the fancy link yet, because I don't think we have enough followers to get the fancy link yet, enough subscribers. But yeah, so you can find us in a couple different places. We got Twitter, BSPN shows, Instagram as well. We set up the Facebook page. We have a Facebook group for the Death Lineup. So we got everything covered. So you can just search us and find us. But Eric, thank you for joining. This was
Pleasure.
awesome. Brian, of course, I guess we're just going to keep doing these until one of us can't do them, right? Like, I don't know. I only was going to do the first one. Then I thought I was going to be in Arizona and we couldn't go. So we've just done live streams after all 3 games so far. So Sunday night, unless Brian's got some plans or something, I guess we'll
I
be
got
back.
nothing. I'll be here.
And Eric, you are welcome to join us whenever you are free. So
Only on the wins.
all right. So for Brian, for Eric, I am a Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.